Good afternoon and welcome back to Wellness Wednesday. I'm Erin Kuhn-Krieger from Ralph Pancreatic Cancer Foundation, and I am so excited to be here to help Ralph kick off our 25th anniversary year. For a quarter of a century, our community has been the driving force behind Ralph's significant impact. And today, we continue to be dedicated to supporting our families and their loved ones, funding early detection research, raising awareness, and creating community. While we've seen promising medical advancements, the loved ones we've lost to this disease is profound. Their cherished legacies are the reason that we continue our fight. Like you, we yearn for a cure, and we're not going to stop until we get there. We have so many great activities planned for throughout the year, so I hope you'll grab your calendars and get ready to join us. So our March Mania tournament, presented by our Young Professionals Board, or YPB, is in full swing right now. We've already raised more than $10,000. How incredible is that? While the brackets are closed, there is still time to make donations. So go ahead and look in the chat for a link, and you can join us that way. We're also going to be hosting our 14th annual Dash for Detection 5K Run Walk this summer at Chicago's Montrose Harbor on June 8th. And rumor has it, superheroes are going to be expected. And I'm not just talking about the Avengers kind. Registration opens in a couple of weeks, and we'll be making sure to get the info out to all of you. So start gathering your teams and get ready for another great time. Our YPB comes back in August for a Cubs rooftop event. And then we're going to head back to the Greens in September when we partner with the Israel Cancer Research Fund for their second annual Drive for Research at the Skokie Country Club. Then get your dancing shoes ready because we're having our 25th anniversary celebration on November 14th at Venue West in Chicago, which kind of gets us right into World Pancreatic Awareness Day on November 21st. We're just getting started. So make sure you're following us on all of the socials, as more is going to be announced in the days and weeks to come. So speaking of fun, let's get back to Wellness Wednesday with a few housekeeping items. You could ask questions anytime throughout our session today. You could do so in the chat, or if you want a little bit more privacy, you could email us at info@ralphfoundation.org. We will save all the questions until the end to make sure we're not interrupting Chris and make sure that we're able to get to everybody. So today's conversation on the cancer fighting diet is actually the fourth in this popular series. Chris has previously talked with us about the harmful impact of sugar, about boosting immunity, and easy food swaps. So you could find links to all of these sessions in our chat, and look forward to seeing how those pieces of the puzzle fit in today's talk on inflammation. So let me introduce Chris and give a little bit about her background. So Chris Rosandich is the Nutrition and Wellness Manager from Cancer Support Center. She has a master's degree in health and nutrition education from Hawthorn University and additional certifications, including plant-based nutrition from Cornell University and nutrition and cancer from Arizona Center for Integrative Medicine. Christine's passion is to work with various people, including those with cancer, to help them develop a foundation for optimal health. Welcome, Chris. We're so excited to have you back today.
Hi, Erin. Thank you. And thank you for having me.
The floor is yours.
Well, it's an important topic, and I am so glad to be here to share it with you. But I just want to start off by saying we have to be super gentle with ourselves. It's just our diet, what we eat, some of our lifestyle habits are they're a big part of our life. And so what I want to do today is just take a step by step and share some really powerful information. And so again, feel free to ask questions throughout the program, but I think we'll be addressing those questions afterwards. So today it is the fourth topic, the fourth discussion surrounding inflammation. And so today I'm going to zero in on why is it so dangerous? And like Rolf Pancreatic Foundation, the Cancer Support Center, that's what we do. We're a nonprofit and we support cancer patients and their family members. anyone going through this horrific journey. So I just wanted to be able to introduce you to the Cancer Support Center. You're welcome to go online. Much like Rolf Foundation, we're there to support you. There's absolutely no charge for our services, and we're offering anywhere from counseling, fitness, nutrition, education, body image. Those are the type of things that we are offering here at the Cancer Support Center. So it's not just for the survivor and the caregiver, but also if you've lost anybody to this horrible disease. So of course, we've got the information available to you to give a call or an email. But what I wanted to also say is you always have to go back to your medical professional. This is information. This is, as a nutrition educator, that's what I do, is I bring all of these amazing resources to you, all this current data. And so from that, you need to be able to talk to your doctor. And so we're going to cover a lot, actually. And I like to have a discussion that's a little bit more relaxed. I bring in quite a few pictures because I think many of us are visual. And I think this is a topic that sometimes we're not absolutely sure of, are we eating an anti-inflammatory diet? And that's what we're going to get to the bottom of. So we're going to talk about causes of inflammation, why it's dangerous. What are the signs? Do you know the signs of inflammation in your own body? Strategies to reduce inflammation, which will increase energy, relieve brain fog, and some very simple meal ideas of making eating an anti-inflammatory diet, making that super simple. But I want to tell you that the third conversation we had in the fall of last year, we talked quite a bit about meal planning. So that's maybe something that you want to look into after we're done with this discussion. So I want to start off with just a quote. Chronic inflammatory diseases are the most significant cause of death in the world. The World Health Organization, WHO, ranks chronic disease as the greatest threat to human health. So what is inflammation? I think we have a good idea of inflammation, but if you would allow me to, based on what Dr. Josh Axe has spoke, he says, when we look at disease that plagues our society, like arthritis, like diabetes, like high blood pressure, we see the long-term lifestyle changes are needed. By addressing the inflammation with anti-inflammatory foods and lifestyle changes, and that's what we're going to talk about today, not only can the symptoms of these diseases be eliminated, but we can see them literally disappear, which is amazing news, right? So inflammation refers to your body's natural process. I think that this is important to understand, that this is a natural process that our body goes through, fighting against things that harm it, like infection, injury, toxins, in an attempt to heal itself. When something damages your cells, your body releases these chemicals that trigger a response from your immune system. And many people think that inflammation is the root cause of most disease. And that is exactly why this topic is so important. It's critical that we really understand, are we following a cancer-fighting diet? So what causes chronic inflammation? Untreated causes of acute inflammation are like infection and injury. Like if you cut yourself, right away, it's going to get puffy, it's going to get red, swollen. But chronic inflammation is a little bit different. So an autoimmune disorder, which involves your immune system mistakenly attacking healthy cells, that could be chronic inflammation. Long-term exposure to irritants like chemicals or pollution. Smoking is a big one that can cause chronic inflammation, long-term inflammation in your body. Chronic alcohol intake, stress, and of course, age. And so I think what we really want to identify is acute inflammation happens for a very short time, but chronic inflammation is long-term. It just never seems to turn itself off. So when you're living with this chronic inflammation, your body's inflammatory response can eventually start damaging healthy cells, tissues, and organs, which is detrimental. Over time, these health concerns are linked to the development of several diseases. So like I mentioned, it's this process that lingers, leaving the body in a constant state of alert. So really talking about chronic inflammation, there are so many things we can do to eliminate it. But first we want to know what diseases might it lead to. So we know about heart disease. Actually, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, ADD, ADHD, arthritis, depression, autoimmune disease, allergies, asthma, gut issues, which is a big one. We're going to talk later about digestive wellness because with 70 to 80% of your immune system residing in your gut, we want to look at how that's affecting your body. And then, of course, MS. So here's an important slide because it will allow you to find out or be mindful if you're dealing with chronic inflammation. Acute inflammation is pretty easy to see. If you sprain your ankle, if you cut yourself, there's going to be pain, redness, swelling, immobility, maybe even heat to the area, maybe even a rash. So we're pretty familiar with acute, but chronic, many of us are not thinking about chronic inflammation. How long have we had it? And are there any side effects? Are we experiencing any symptoms? And what would those symptoms be? Maybe fatigue and insomnia, body and joint pain, maybe even chest pain. Many times we're not thinking about depression, anxiety, or mood disorders. Abdominal pain, any kind of GI issue like diarrhea, constipation, or acid reflux, weight gain, weight loss, and frequent infections. You have a tendency to get sick often, or if you do get sick, it lingers for a while. That can be an indication of chronic inflammation. So I hope that wasn't too boring, but I think it's super important to talk about it so that we ourselves can identify whether we are inflamed. So the dangers, I've added 3 slides to this presentation. And the reason I did is I really wanted to highlight 3 doctors that have podcasts on inflammation. And the first one is at the bottom of the slide, if you see Dr. Michael Greger, the founder of nutritionfacts.org. And he talks a lot about lupus and autoimmune disease and that kidney inflammation is a common consequence. I took a few notes that I want to share with you. He talks about just by cutting out and limiting animal protein, limiting meat, eggs, and dairy, you can take a test and you can see the C-reactive protein levels, which is an indicator of whole body inflammation, be reduced by 1/3 in simply 8 weeks. He talks a little bit about the importance of green smoothies, making sure we're adding, if we are enjoying smoothies, that we're adding a lot of fruits and vegetables, mainly cruciferous vegetables. But that when we pack our diet with a lot of anti-inflammatory foods, that kidney function can improve, which is a byproduct of lupus. So many times we're looking at the actual disease, and in this example, lupus, but are we looking at some of the side effects, some of the organs that are affected because of lupus? And by following an anti-inflammatory diet, we can improve kidney function in a major way. I wanted to share a story that he shared about a patient with psoriasis. And she literally, by changing her diet, 40% of her body was covered with psoriasis, literally covered. And by following an anti-inflammatory diet, she saw great improvement. And I just wanted to share for a moment that I worked with a woman that at the time was in her 80s and ate a fabulous healing diet. She ate very little processed food. She ate very little sugar. She had her own garden. She exercised. She was one of these ancestors that we look to as an example. But what she found was she was eating a lot of nightshade vegetables like tomatoes and eggplant, uh, red peppers, yellow peppers, green peppers. And even though those foods are super healing, she started to develop psoriasis. And it got so bad that at the end of the day, the scales would fall off into the kitchen and she would sweep them up into a small dustpan. And I knew this woman personally, and I watched her over the course of 6 or 8 or 10 weeks. And even though she went to renowned doctors that wanted to put her on a lot of medication, which might be necessary for some patients, she followed an anti-inflammatory diet for herself. She got off of nightshade vegetables and 100% improvement. And I tell you, if I didn't know her, I almost wouldn't believe it. And also looking at type 2 diabetes, which is a lifestyle disease, can be prevented and reversed. So I wanted to introduce you to Michael Greger and look him up on the internet. I also wanted to introduce you to Sarah Wakeman. She is the medical director for the Mass General Hospital Substance Use Disorder Initiative. The reason I wanted to include this slide today, because we're getting a little bit more detailed with this conversation than the other conversations, is that alcohol is a water-soluble molecule that is readily absorbed in the body. I think we know that, right? But alcohol affects different parts of the body and body systems. It impacts behavior, mood, and sleep. But alcohol promotes inflammation in the liver specifically and other organs. Alcohol harms and disrupts the microbiome. And I think that that's what I really wanted to highlight. Not only does alcohol inflame the body to some degree, but it also changes the makeup of your gut health. So not only drinking alcohol, but eating a Western diet, which is processed foods, a lot of fats and sugars. But what she's declaring is by cutting way back on our alcohol consumption can make a tremendous difference in the inflammation in your body. So I'd love for you to look up Sarah Wakeman. She has a fabulous, fabulous webinar or podcast available to you. And then the other doctor that I wanted to introduce you to, if you're not familiar with, Mark Hyman. And Mark Hyman talks a lot about the dangers of sugar and starch, that they're super inflammatory, not only to the body. A lot of times we think of inflammation in the body, but we're not always thinking about inflammation in the brain that leads to dementia and depression and behavioral issues. He talks about we need to think of sugar and starch as a recreational drug. He also mentions, and he's got many podcasts available. He is well respected in the industry and just talks really matter of fact when he's doing his podcast. But he talks about water and that a lot of us are dehydrated. And that we're missing that intracellular hydration. And at the bottom right-hand corner, it's not that he's affiliated with this brand, but I thought it was important to just highlight that many of us might be drinking enough water, but we might still not be hydrated at an intracellular level. And so that might be a product that you use, just a couple of drops in your water, in your clean, maybe reverse osmosis water, that can make a difference. He talks about water itself. There are studies have been done that there are 38 plus wastewater contaminants in tap water. And so he calls on us to detoxify our body. And I just want you to remember that word. You might have heard of it. Of course you have. You might have followed a detoxification program, maybe for 10 days, 2 weeks. Dr. Hyman has a really gentle one that he has on his website. But what we want to do is waste products cause inflammation. So that's why we want to eat less processed foods. We want to eat foods that have less fillers and artificial colors and ingredients and pesticides and all of that, because all of that causes inflammation in the body. And it really does affect our microbiome, which we're going to be talking about in just a second. So I hope I haven't lost you. It's such an important topic. Again, I just want to reiterate the fact that we have to be very gentle with ourselves. And you might hear one or two things that you want to implement this week, or perhaps the month of April, or perhaps this spring. Look at it in terms of really small goals that you can do for yourself. But the best things to eat are healing fats. The fatty, we're going to get into more detail on this, but the fatty fishes, the walnuts, things that have omega-3 fatty acids in them. Making sure you're getting in your salmon. Making sure that you're not only just eating fats that have high levels of omega-3 fatty acids, but you're eating good fats. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Dr. Hyman talks a lot about phytochemicals, and phyto means plant. And so we want to eat a lot of plant chemicals that are super healing for our body. And I wanted to highlight something to you. There's organizations now that are actually looking into phytochemicals. There's like 25,000 of them. Remember back decades ago, we looked at vitamins and minerals, but now they're looking at the nutrient densities of phytochemicals. And essentially, you just want to eat the rainbow. The color of the plant is going to provide these amazing nutrients that our body needs. And then, of course, clean water. So think about cultivating your own inner garden. Worst things to eat is sugar and starch, the bad fats, and processed foods. So I am going to jump into sugar because sugar is one of the more inflammatory substances, and we love sugar. I love sugar. I want to tell you that I'll have a glass of wine every third, fourth day. I'll have definitely maybe a sweet treat every day, but it's about understanding how much sugar are we consuming. So I want to share with you that back in the time of hunter and gatherers, we were having like 22 teaspoons a year of sugar, right? If we were taking in berries and honey, that was a big deal. And then all of a sudden, the 1800s, we were introduced to sugar, but we were eating like 10 pounds of sugar a year. Then moving forward, 2008, people were consuming a lot of sugar, 60 pounds of added sugar, not including fruit juices. But what I want to say to you is today, the number is right at about 60 pounds. And the reason it stayed steady or even decreased is because many people have cut back on the sugary beverages, and that's the number one place to take in sugar. So if you yourself have given up sugary beverages, you're primarily drinking coffee without sugar. You're drinking tea without a lot of sugar. Sure, you can have a little honey here and there, but you're not drinking the Kool-Aid of yesterday, the soda pops and stuff. If you are drinking that, I would love for you to gently think about how much are you consuming. Okay. So I love this quote: sugar clogs nutrient channels, weakens bones and muscles, slowing neural communication, which can impair mood and memory and lead to dementia. I mean, right there, that's scary. While all this is going on, sugar stiffens the collagen in your tendons, your joints, and your skin, causing arthritis and premature wrinkling, while interfering with the production of new collagen throughout the entire body. And because sugar changes the surface markers, your white blood cells need to distinguish indigenous cells from invaders. It opens the door to cancer and infection. So we do know the detrimental effect of sugar. So now it's time, after we've talked a little bit about inflammation and how damaging it can be to the body. We've looked at some signs and symptoms to start to look at, am I inflamed? Is there any telltale signs that I'm inflamed? We're looking now at sugar as really an inflammatory substance. And in terms of solution, the first place we need to go is mindfulness. We need to figure out how much sugar are we consuming. So the reason 4 grams of sugar equals 1 teaspoon, the reason that's really important there's two reasons. Number one, you're going to see the grams of sugar on a label on a product that you purchase. And why I wanted to highlight this is there might be people that are not thinking that not too long ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago, packages just declared the total sugar, but now it breaks it down to added sugar. So what I wanted to share with you is that total sugars in this example is 25 grams. The added sugar is what's so detrimental. That's the high fructose corn syrup. It could be table sugar. We don't know the type of sugar that's in this product without looking at the ingredients. But what we do know is out of 25 grams of sugar, 23 of them are harmful. Or in terms of inflammatory reaction, we just don't need 23 added grams of sugar into this product. The second reason we want to know that 4 grams of sugar equals a teaspoon is because now there are organizations that have come forward and said, what would be the daily limit? What would be the maximum daily added sugar limit in your diet? And so for women, it's 6 teaspoons. For men, it's 9 teaspoons. And for children, it's about 3 teaspoons, anywhere from 3 to 6 teaspoons. And so, of course, no sugar for kids under the age of 2. And so I want to just take a moment and just sit with this for a second, because when we go back to this slide and we're looking at 25 grams of sugar, let's just look at the 23 grams, the added sugar. 23 divided by 4, 5 times 4 is 20. So it's about 5.5 teaspoons of sugar. 5.5 teaspoons of sugar. And for us ladies, we're really, the upper limit is 6 teaspoons. So when I eat a serving of this, whatever it is, I pretty much have had my daily quantity of sugar. And so I don't know if any of you are thinking, wow, really? I can't eat any more sugar the rest of the day, right? But again, that's what this conversation is about, is to start to get us thinking about how much sugar are we consuming. And so as we go through, we understand that there's a lot of sugar in soda, okay? I want to point out that each one of these white squares, this is a cube of sugar, and each one of this is a teaspoon. So if you see the top number, that would be 10 teaspoons of sugar. If you drink a bigger, I don't know, is that a half liter? I'm not even sure. 17 teaspoons. And if you drink the whole thing throughout the day, that's 27 teaspoons of sugar. So I think we logically know that sugar is in soda, but even 1 can of soda would put us way over of our daily limit of sugar intake. Let's say during the holidays we enjoy, and I love Starbucks, so it's not anything against Starbucks, but it's just that I want you to treat this as a treat. And so if you're getting a pumpkin spice latte with 49 grams of sugar, you might not do it every single week. It might just be a few times a year. And then I wanted to break it down a little bit further, because there's sometimes we're eating foods that might have more sugar than we realize. And so Yoplait, as much as that has calcium and some vitamins and minerals, it does have some added sugar. So you notice that there's 18 grams of sugar, but 13 are the added. That's the number you really want to pay attention to, because it's not the fruit so much. Sure, we want to limit fruit consumption, especially if you're a diabetic or you have a health issue. But all in all, we're looking at the added sugar, especially for this conversation today. But even a Nutri-Grain bar, 1 bar, 12 grams of added sugar. Okay, now, of course, you're allowed, what do we say for women? You're allowed 24 grams of sugar. So just jot that number down or put that in your memory bank. Even a Kind bar, which I love, just be mindful that there is a teaspoon of added sugar to a Kind bar. And then what we wake up and have a bagel for breakfast. We have maybe a tablespoon of jelly on that bagel, and then we have a little bit of flavored creamer. And so what you're seeing is about 20 grams of sugar And ladies, we're allowed about 26 grams of sugar for the day. So straight from breakfast on, now you've got 6 more grams to kind of play with. So maybe what you do is you get rid of the flavored creamer, or maybe you really don't need jelly, or maybe you really don't need this big bagel, which again, we're not even talking about how white flour translates into sugar in our body, right? That's where the starches come in. So that's a concern. But let's say for breakfast, you choose to have maybe 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, which I love. I do more almond butter. You might have 1 slice of oat bread. I love this oat bread. That's why I put it down. I try to do gluten-free as much as I can, but sometimes I'll have a slice of this bread. Or maybe you have a bowl of cereal. Now, 1 cup of cereal is 5 grams of sugar. So just buy 1 slice of toast with some 2 tablespoons of peanut butter and a bowl of cereal. That's about 10 grams. But what I wanted to bring your attention to is the ingredients in Jif. There's a lot of ingredients, negative ingredients, toxic ingredients that we do not need. Fully hydrogenated oil is one fat that we do not need in our diet at all. And so to find a peanut butter that doesn't have all of these chemicals in would maybe be something that I would highly suggest. So again, looking at breakfast, you might have yogurt. You might have a half a cup of Campbell's soup for lunch. You might have a Chewy bar for a snack, and you just might have a beverage of a soda. And right there is 78 grams of added sugar. Why I put down the 86 grams is because a half a cup of soup wouldn't be enough for me. I would love to eat probably a cup. I probably even eat more than that. So what a suggestion would be is to find a healthier soup option. Not that Campbell's soup is so unhealthy, but one that doesn't have as much sugar in it, okay? Definitely purchase Greek yogurt, no added sugar, and then maybe you do the drizzle of maple syrup or a little honey, or you just add some nuts and seeds and berries to sweeten it up. So just be mindful of how much sugar you're eating. Just if we had these 4 items for the day, we're at almost 20 teaspoons of sugar, and we're allowed 6, right? Allowed 6. Then I wanted to just take us down this path of if we eat out, and I take my grandbabies to Culver's. They have some good quality food, but remembering that it's probably the bun that has the sugar in it. So maybe take off the top bun, or don't eat any of the bun if you really want to cut back on sugar. Juice, 23 grams of sugar. I don't know if juice is really good for anyone. I would rather have you eat the fruit, right? Eat a nice, beautiful pear or apple. And then looking at even 1 tablespoon of ketchup is a teaspoon of sugar. Okay, so we know that the top foods with hidden sugars, we know that it's in a lot of sauces and salad dressing. You know, some tomato sauces have more sugar than 2 Oreo cookies. So I guess I'm just taking you down this journey of thinking about what's in your cabinet, what's in your refrigerator, how much sugar are you eating? So I love this. This is a quote from Dr. Robert Lustig. I absolutely love this quote. Your body can safely metabolize 6 teaspoons of added sugar per day. But since most Americans are consuming over 3 times that, the majority of the excess sugar becomes metabolized into body fat. Okay, leading to disease. So again, it's just interesting hearing from the experts to go, okay, if you want to have a sugary treat, great. Maybe not great, but just to modify it. So then I want to talk a little bit about, do we have a little bit of a sugar addiction? And I know that word addiction is a little bit strong, but there are so many people that I meet with and they say, I don't think I could give up sugar. I mean, I love sugar. I crave sugar. So these are some questions you might want to ask yourself. And if you're saying yes to any of these questions, specifically, the first couple, the first 3, And then the fourth question would be how many grams of sugar? That would be something that you would try to trace for yourself each day. And the way I would recommend that is just take a notebook paper and write down every single food item that you eat. Now, if it's fresh and if it's like fruit or vegetable, you don't have to worry about it. It's usually the processed foods, and they're usually in a package and it usually says added sugar. So it's easy enough to be able to track how much sugar you're eating for the day. And so kind of get your mind wrapped around how much sugar am I eating? And could you go sugar free for 7 to 10 days? And if the answer to that question is no, that might be something that you want to start to cut back sugar so that you possibly could achieve that at some point. So when you're talking about inflammation in terms of a bigger topic, I wanted to be able to have Harvard Health Publishing share their recommendation on how do you decrease inflammation for yourself. So no smoking, eating fruits and vegetables, less processed foods, exercise, maintain a healthy weight, avoid alcohol, sleep, avoid infections when we can, right? Washing our hands, that kind of thing. Try to minimize stress and drink plenty of water. So this is a little bit more general. It's kind of like a 30,000 foot look at how do we decrease inflammation. But what I wanted to do is share with you 10 habits that Dr. Hyman really highly recommends. So for the next few minutes, we're going to look at these a little closer. Number one, he recommends making sure that our diet is filled with these whole unprocessed foods. So let's say for breakfast, you're having old-fashioned oats with some nuts and seeds and blueberries. Maybe for lunch, you have a salad. Maybe for dinner, you have a chicken breast with broccoli, steamed broccoli, but you still have a couple of treats during the day. So that's really what we're looking at is throughout the day, you really can look at your diet and go, oh, I'm eating a lot of foods that my ancestors ate, not a lot of processed foods. Number two would be eat plenty of those phytochemicals that we talked about, eating the rainbow. Here would be some suggestions. For breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you're making sure to have maybe a pear. Maybe at lunchtime, you're having that salad, but you add some carrots and celery, maybe some zucchini. Maybe at dinner time, if you're having some brown rice and salmon or chicken, you're making sure to have a couple of steamed vegetables, maybe a bowl of blueberries with some almond milk and even a drizzle of maple syrup. As a snack. You're thinking about the foods that you've eaten throughout the day, and it's like, wow, a lot of these foods are real. A lot of these foods are colorful. Number three would be eliminate the processed foods like we talked about, or really decrease the best you can. No trans fats or refined oils. So, you talk about vegetable oil. So listen, you think vegetable oil, what's vegetable? Is that like a broccoli oil? No, vegetable oil, soybean oil, canola oil. There are oils that cause inflammation. Many times before they even leave the manufacturing plant, they're rancid and they cause free radical damage. So we want to get off of all those crappy oils and we want to start to eat really good fats and good oil. So we're cooking with almond oil or avocado oil or olive oil or coconut oil. We're really starting to clean up our pantry and our refrigerator. We're thinking, you know what? I don't need to buy vegetable oil anymore. I need to have the healthy, good oils on hand. Exercise is incredibly important to balance blood sugar, to help with insulin concerns, brain health. Of course, exercise, there's so many health benefits. We're going to talk about gut protocol in just a minute, possibly taking some supplements like a vitamin D or a fish oil or turmeric, there's research to support that taking a supplement that has the turmeric in it can be an anti-inflammatory type of supplement. That might be very beneficial, a multivitamin to make sure we're not deficient in things. Relaxation techniques. And number 10, I think is really important. Is there foods that you're sensitive to? So I'll just give you an example for myself. About 10 years ago, I got diagnosed that I have a gluten intolerance. I don't have celiac disease, but I have an intolerance, so that when I eat gluten, if I eat breads or crackers that have gluten in it, in my stomach starts to bloat, or I have flatulence, or I have acid reflux. It just all of these symptoms and side effects that affect me when I have gluten. So if you have a food sensitivity, it's important for you to be aware of and stay clear of, because when we eat something that our body rejects, it brings on the inflammation. Our immune system calls on the immune system to help get rid of this foreign invader. It thinks it's a foreign invader. So it's really important to look at food sensitivities. As we talked a little bit about exercise, it reduces inflammation. I mean, that's the goal here, right? What reduces inflammation? Exercise. And it doesn't have to be where we're at the gym for 2.5 hours. It could just be a walk for a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, 3 days a week, 4 days a week. It could be a gentle yoga class. It could be just lifting weights a little bit. It improves blood flow to the brain, which as we age is important. If you're on a chemo regime, many times that causes a brain fog, right? Chemo brain, they refer to it as. So making sure that we get enough blood flow to the brain supports immune function, and that's super important for cancer patients. If you're battling cancer treatment, we want your immune system to be as strong as it can be so that you can take on your treatment. Strengthens the heart, corrects insulin resistance, improves mood, which is the main reason why I exercise, so that my family loves me, right? Because I can get a little gnarly if my blood sugar is imbalanced and if I haven't gotten outside in nature. I just have to be out in nature at least once a day, even if it's for 10 minutes. And then, of course, reduce stress any way we can. Ways to reduce stress would maybe be my favorite ways, and it's really easy to do, is deep breathing exercises. And you can look on the internet for deep breathing exercises. My favorite is called the 4-7-8 breathing exercise. It's a yoga breath. So you take in you take in breath for 4 seconds, you hold it for 7, and then you breathe out for 8. And you do that 4 cycles a couple of days a week. I'm sorry, a couple of times a day. So again, it's taking your breath, your belly breath, that your diaphragm is expanding. It's almost like you're blowing up a balloon in your stomach. So you're blowing up this balloon and you're filling your body with this oxygen for 4 seconds. Hold it for 7 and then breathe out of your mouth for 8. And it is a tremendous technique to reduce stress. So as we talk about ways to reduce inflammation, most of your experts are saying we've got to make sure our gut is healthy. That's what they're saying. Dr. Hyman, Dr. Wakeman, it's critical that our gut is healthy. And how do we achieve a healthy gut? Number one, get off of processed foods and the sugars and the starches. So number one, we kind of want to eliminate that. Number two, we want to eat fermented foods, maybe every other day. And if you're looking at this list and you're like, Chris, I don't like any of these foods on there, I don't blame you. Our culture in America, we haven't really embraced fermented foods like some of the other cultures have, but it's critically important because what it does is it balances the good and bad bacteria in your gut. Why do we care about a balance of good and bad bacteria? First of all, we have billions of bacteria in our body, more than cells. And so we want to make sure the friendly bacteria is helping build up immune function, helping fight off infection, right? Helping our mind to be calm and happy. So by eating a 1/4 cup of fermented foods every other day, you are helping to feed that good bacteria. The other thing is we don't want to just take a probiotic and call it a day. A probiotic will have so many strands of live culture, right? And we want a whole variety of strands of live culture that we're eating throughout the day. So it's not just yogurt. It's not just sauerkraut. It's not just a probiotic. We want a whole variety so that we have this beautiful blend of good bacteria in our gut. And so this is the list, but again, I love pictures. But before I go to some of the pictures of what the fermented foods are, it's not just about you are what you eat. It's really about you are what you digest. And remember that the probiotics, the good bacteria, break down the food that you eat, allowing you to have better digestion. So don't these look so yummy? Kimchi, which is a little like sauerkraut. It's made with cabbage. You guys, I love miso soup, and it's super easy. All you do is simply buy miso paste, and you can find that at a grocery store. And you take a couple of tables of miso paste and add it with maybe a chicken broth, or you can add it with a plant-based broth or water. And you simply just on the stove, simmer it for 20, 30 minutes. You can add a little bit of tofu. I don't normally do that. I add onions and mushrooms. It is just a healing soup. It's warm, it's comforting. If you don't make it yourself, you can always get that at maybe an Asian restaurant. And pickles, remember that not all pickles are fermented. You can take a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar every day, drink a little bit of kombucha, or make your own. So there are a lot of options for fermented foods. But what I want to say to you is, if you're like, Chris, I can't do the fermented foods right now, at least look into getting yourself a probiotic. And maybe not everybody needs a probiotic. If you're having digestive distress, like inflammation is on the rise, and you know that because you're bloated, you have maybe diarrhea, constipation, acid reflux, some of these symptoms and side effects, you might want to take a probiotic every day. And I wanted to add this one just because I've done a lot of study under Mark Hyman lately, and this is his new probiotic called Gut Food, and that I just purchased it. So I'm hoping that it arrives at my doorstep today or tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to trying that. Okay, so as we conclude, I just want to talk about the 80-20 rule, and I feel like this will help if you don't already do this. It helps eliminate deprivation. I don't like to be told that I can't have sweet treats every day, or maybe some chips or some Fritos, some crappy carbohydrates. I want to be able to have 1 or 2 or 3 treats a day in moderation, looking at portion control. But this, I'll tell you, when I was out of college, I think I was addicted to food. I really was. And this rule I have followed my entire life. It's helped me lose 30 pounds. It helps me stay on target. Every day I get something wonderful. So whether you're looking at this little hamburger, so I get a little maybe open bun, or I usually make pizza at home with a gluten-free crust, but that's not super healthy. It's still one of the 20% fun foods. Or, maybe I'll make my own homemade cookies and I'll have 2 or 3 of those with some hot tea. So this is a wonderful rule to really take into account if you find that you're the person that if you eat something bad, you have a tendency to say that I ruined it for the day. I might as well eat whatever and I'll start fresh tomorrow. That start fresh tomorrow, that can get us into some habits that are difficult to break. So this rule allows you to think every day you get a treat. Every day you want to make sure at every meal you're having a healthy fat, protein, fiber, and a phytochemical. Those healthy, colorful fruits and vegetables. Some of the healthiest fats, like we talked about, avocado oil or avocados, grass-fed butter or ghee, coconut oil, fatty fish, nuts and seeds, walnuts. Oh, the shape of a walnut is the shape of a brain. So it's kind of funny. It's easy to remember. Eat your walnuts each day. Great for brain health. Again, as a visual, you're thinking, okay, am I having 1, 2, or 3 of these foods every single day? And again, when you're talking about fats, you don't want to eat an abundance of it. It might just be a small serving, like 1 teaspoon of butter on your whole grain bread. But again, you're eating, maybe instead of buying the crappier butter, you're spending a little bit more, which I totally understand. Food is expensive, but sometimes if we spend a little bit more buying a higher grade product that's going to last in the refrigerator for, a while, it's well worth it. Eating high, clean types of protein is important to know the source, like grass-fed beef or pasture raised chicken or eggs. And then seldom does anyone talk about fiber, but really it's another thing that, if you could think about your fiber intake for the day, if you want more information, you're so welcome to reach out to me anytime. You simply email me and I can send you handouts. But when we're eating 25 grams of fiber a day, we're more regular. We're getting rid of toxicity, which is important for cancer patients. We're feeling full longer, so we're not wanting a lot of the sweet, crappy treats, right? But super important that we're looking at fiber. And this would be an example if you really wanted to follow the 6 teaspoons of sugar or less. If you're thinking to yourself, Chris, what am I supposed to eat? Well, you might make yourself a burrito, a breakfast burrito in the morning. With a lot of good quality eggs and fruits or vegetables, right? Maybe even some beans in there. Maybe for lunch, you're having that salad with some, chopped up chicken, salad with some steamed or roasted veggies. But then all of a sudden you get the ice cream that you love, right? At the end of the day, you just feel like you deserve something, and that's fine. A good quality ice cream has some nutrient value to it in terms of calcium, and it's not a horrible dessert. It's just looking at the sugar content for the day. With all of this, you're looking at 6 teaspoons of sugar, which is crazy, right? That looks like such healthy meals, but we're still taking in 6 teaspoons of sugar. When you're looking at your plate, you're looking at, really healthy, non-starchy green veggies. We're looking at protein and maybe whole grain or quinoa, some kind of carbohydrate, and then water, water, water. Try not to take any sugar in with any of your beverages is what I would recommend, unless you really wanted to. And so there I am. I hope I didn't go too fast, but time is limited. So I just wanted to share all that I know about inflammation.
That was amazing. And the questions have been coming in fast and furious. So we're going to jump right in. If you have more questions, keep them coming. We're going to try to get to as many as we can. I want to be mindful of time and remind everybody that we are recording this. It'll be posted up on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel, and it'll in where you get your podcasts too. So, Chris, let's jump in. Ready? Roll our sleeves up. If we could maybe spend like 1-2 minutes per question, because we do have so many, that would be fantastic. So our first question has to do with, are there any physical indications of being inflamed that we might not notice or aren't as obvious as we might think?
It could be foggy thinking, word recall. It could be that your gut is bloated. You have a lot of flatulence. You have acid reflux. You're just sick a little bit more frequently than you expect. And if you are sick, you might stay sick for longer. So even sleep can be interrupted. You could be developing or experiencing some insomnia. So those could be some symptoms and side effects of inflammation.
Okay. How about
Wait, not to mention achiness. Your knees are achy, your body is achy. When you wake up in the morning, you're kind of achy.
okay. How about you mentioned a cocktail or a glass of wine every third night or so. What is there a rule about how often, and what is the healthiest cocktail if you still like an evening drink but don't want to kind of overdo it? What type would you recommend?
Well, I think first you have to, and that's where I really enjoyed listening to Sarah Wakeman, and she really has an amazing podcast on Mel Robbins' podcast series about alcohol. And you have to first decide, is it a problem? Do you feel like you're drinking every single day? You kind of have to take that look uh, and take that inside view of what some of your habits are. If it's not really a problem, alcohol, we can't think of it as healthy, but in moderation. So 1 glass with dinner. I would love for people to drink alcohol with food because I don't think it's going to spike your blood sugar quite as much. Um, and just again, looking at it as a treat, as something that we're not doing as a habit every single day. Sometimes we can just develop habits and we don't even know why we're doing it, right? Just and one of the things that I have understood when I'll just be totally transparent that during COVID, I was maybe having a glass of wine, maybe every day, maybe every other day during COVID. I was home, I was watching news, which was crazy, having a glass of wine. And what I realized that my digestive tract was really starting to get compromised. And trouble that I was having before was even more relevant. And so when I got off the alcohol, maybe only having a couple of glasses every week, what I'll do is I'll have 1 glass and then I'll fill up the second glass with carbonated water and lemon. So I still feel like I'm still enjoying myself in this, with this beverage, but it's not wine because wine, as we know, alcohol can be a little bit inflammatory. If you're talking about low sugar, you might want to look at maybe perhaps vodka is considered more on the low sugar end. But look, we just have to be honest with what alcohol does to our body.
Got it. Let's talk pre and probiotic drinks. So first of all, with kombucha, is there, since one of our previous talks, kombucha has been a staple in our house here. Can you have too much kombucha?
You know what, Erin? You can have too much kombucha if you've got digestive issues. So what I learned through trial and error for myself, my body doesn't digest kombucha as well as when I'm eating just regular fermented foods. So if someone has a yeast overgrowth, then kombucha might not be something that you're looking for. And so I think based on when you drink it, maybe 4 ounces, 6 ounces, 8 ounces a day, every other day, if your digestive tract is healing, you're not noticing a flare up, then it might be good for you because it's hard. We're not running to the doctor getting tested for all these things. So we have to do our own evaluation. How is our digestive tract working? So I do want to say that kombucha is not for everybody, but it is a very healing beverage.
And how about the prebiotic sodas that have come out, like Poppy? So does that help with gut health? Do we need both a prebiotic, probiotic drink or foods daily, or what's the recommendation there? What's the best approach?
Well, I love prebiotic foods, which are like the onions and the garlic and some of these foods that kind of set the stage for probiotic rich foods. Um, I think one we have to be mindful is the beverage, does it have artificial sugar in it? So I would love everyone to look at the ingredient list and make sure that there's no artificial ingredients, no artificial sugar, because artificial sugar is way worse than regular table sugar. So we have to really be honest with ourselves and understand what artificial sugar is doing for us. And so without understanding what the ingredients are in that product, you just have to really look at the ingredients. I would say just drinking water most of the day. I don't know if that's really necessary. Maybe that's just a treat that we have every third day if it's good ingredients.
And artificial sugar like sucralose and those types of things, or is that, yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're so harmful because not only they're like 300 to 500 times more powerful than regular table sugar. Um, it it just kind of adds to our addiction. So all of a sudden we're used to artificial sugar. We're used to things being so super sweet that when we eat an apple or a glass of water, we're like, oh, this doesn't taste very good, right? Not to mention that it does mess with brain health, and it causes belly fat. It's very addictive. So really the recommendation is to get off of all artificial sugars if we can.
Got it. And are there foods that help break down sugars more? Is there a way to counteract the sweet tooth effect?
Um, Counteract the sweet tooth. What I'm thinking about is if you're drawn to sugary foods, if you feel like you're maybe a little addicted to sugary foods, yes, there is a plan for you. Number one is we've got to get off of sugar, because the more we feed our addiction, the easier it is to continue with that love for sugar. Number one, if we really focus on gut health, filling our bodies and making sure that the good bacteria is balanced will help decrease sugar cravings. That's amazing. Number three, there are times that we're deficient in minerals, and that could aid in craving sugar. So let's say we have a deficiency in chromium or magnesium. We're not even aware of those things, but we're deficient in minerals and it's causing a sugar craving. So the other thing is when we're eating good quality fiber, we're full and we're literally eating a good breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Sometimes we're just craving something because we haven't eaten good quality food, protein, healthy fat, and fiber, right?
Yeah. How about, so let's talk about kicking the sugar habit. Is it best to go cold turkey? Like one day I'm gonna say, all right, starting now, no more sugar for me.
Yeah, not easy, right? And just even thinking about not eating any sugar can make all of us just want to eat more sugar, right? So I think you have to look at your surroundings, who you live with, how much sugar you're eating. Um, you have to almost look at your mindset. Are you ready to give up sugar? If you're not ready to give up sugar, I would encourage you to follow the 80-20 rule and just first figure out how many grams of sugar you're eating a day, how frequently you're eating sugar. Is it at every meal? Are you snacking? Are you a person that grazes? There are people that don't eat meals, they just graze all day. And why that's so detrimental is because every single hour your body's blood sugar is spiking. And so the pancreas has to release the insulin, which is a fat storage hormone, right? And that's, we just don't want to do that. So even just following 3 meals a day, cutting back with all that grazing can be very powerful. Following 80-20, getting to know how much sugar we're eating. And then once you start to get an idea, is this really a problem? For many people, you might want to think about just going cold turkey, even for a week or 10 days. And Erin, can I just share this? When you get off of sugar and your body starts to respond, the first 3 or 4 days, you might feel more tired. You might even feel like you have cold symptoms because your body is detoxifying this substance. But after that, oh my gosh, your energy level increases, you sleep better, you have better word recall, the foggy thinking is gone. It is fabulous. But until you get to that point and realize how good your body can feel, sometimes we don't know. So it is important to get to that point.
And so is it all added sugars that we need to focus on, or is it is it, I guess, can we have unlimited natural sugars, or we want to kind of just look at sugar as a whole and bring everything down, but really eliminate the added sugar piece?
I think it's the latter. I don't think that we can just eat a endless amount of fruit all day long. We have to understand that that's still fructose, but because there's all these phytonutrients and vitamins and minerals, fiber, all of these health benefits to fruit, I would say based on your health issue, maybe not eating more than 2 or 3 servings a day. Maybe putting a couple of servings in a smoothie with healthy fat and vegetables. Um, but yeah, especially if you're a diabetic, you can't eat an endless amount of fruit. But fruit, many of us, I just want to point this out. How many times do we walk by our fruit that's sitting on the counter and think, I don't want to eat an apple. I'd rather have something else. So I'd love for you to ask yourself, are you hungry enough to eat a salad? Are you hungry enough to eat an apple? If not, you're probably not that hungry. You just probably want something to nibble on, right? The other thing is James Clear. He wrote a great book on habits, and I think we've talked about that in the past, but he talks about cues. Put your fruit out, set it out so it's a reminder. Oh, that's right. I haven't eaten enough fruit today.
I love that. That makes total sense. And if you want just that nibble, what would you recommend? What's your go-to little snack nibble?
I think we have to set our environment up for success. So I think we're fooling ourselves if we think we can have Chips Ahoy cookies and Oreos and all of these things in our pantry. At least I'm fooling myself because I'm going to eat it, right? So what I want you to do is empower yourself with healthier snacks. And if anybody didn't listen to the third part of our conversation, they might want to go back and look at that because we included a lot of recommendations for healthy snacks, but some of them would be like, and you can go online, there's a million recipes, or you can reach out to me and I can send them to you. But it would be like a nut ball, a healthy nut ball that you're making with walnuts and dates. You know, dates still have sugar in them, but they're real, right? I love a modified ice cream. So instead of ice cream, what you're doing is in a shake, you're adding almond milk with a banana, almond, maybe a little bit of almond flavored protein powder, maybe a little cocoa powder, and you're making your own modified chocolate shake. The other thing is if you bake. I'm not a baker. I'm not really all that good at it, but every so often I'll make healthy muffins that have all these healthy ingredients in them. Or maybe, what am I thinking of? Uh, some kind of, not a chocolate chip cookie, but an oatmeal cookie with raisins and nuts. You know the quality of your ingredients.
How about olive oil? Is so amongst all the you talked about vegetable oil, not good, but olive oil, avocado oil, all of those. Is there should we limit our amounts of intake on olive oils or the healthy oils too?
Absolutely. They talk about, maybe one serving per meal, and that would be like a teaspoon. So it's not a lot. So if you're sauteing vegetables in the morning, because you're going to add them to some scrambled eggs, it would just be a teaspoon of olive oil. If you want to have a little grass-fed butter on your bread. So also depending on if you want to lose weight, we want to cut back on the fat. But what we really have learned, Mark Hyman is so great about this, 60% of our brain is fat. We need fat. And the last 5 decades, um, these what we thought were healthy institutions were telling us that fat was bad for us. They demonize fat, and that's not true. It's just the really healthy fat, but in moderation. Instead of eating a whole avocado, just eat half a avocado with some scrambled eggs or avocado toast, or throw some avocados in a salad. So again, we don't want to overeat fat because it's more calories than a carbohydrate, but we definitely want to get it into our diet.
Got it. How about examples of, I'm one that I'll have a meal and then want something a little sweet afterwards. Are there healthier choices like a piece of dark chocolate or you had mentioned doing the make your own protein shake. But are there any other suggestions that you can share?
Yeah, I think it's identifying what we like to eat. So for me, I like something crunchy. So one of my favorite go-to snacks is I'll cut up an apple and I'll cut up maybe a banana and I'll throw some walnuts in there and I'll do a drizzle of chocolate. And so it's a modified caramel apple, or I might even add a little bit of caramel on there. And so the caramel and the chocolate isn't per se healthy, but here I've got this beautiful plate of really a lot of fiber and healthy nutrients, but I feel like it's a snack. Right, for me. I love a bowl of frozen. I keep a lot of frozen blueberries in my freezer. So I'll keep the I'll take out a bowl of blueberries. But again, I like crunchy. So I'll put nuts and seeds, a drizzle of maple syrup, and maybe a little almond milk. It just depends on what you get excited about. We just have to get away from thinking about baked goods as our only option, right? I love to have dark chocolate covered almonds or cashews. They're a little bit pricey, but boy, all you need is maybe 4 or 5 of them or a square of dark chocolate. Yeah, dark chocolate doesn't taste as good as milk chocolate, but if you have a great cup of maybe green tea, it's really just after the first bite or two, you're okay with it, right?
It's a good point. It's just that stopping after the after that first
Yeah,
bite or
yeah.
two. Let's switch to vitamins. Is a multivitamin enough, or do we need to do vitamin D, magnesium, all the different pieces?
I'm not an expert with vitamins, so I would defer to your doctor, your health practitioner. But in the studies that I've done, a lot of integrative or functional doctors really recommend a good multivitamin. They really recommend vitamin D because we've learned a lot about vitamin D now. We all should get our vitamin D levels tested every single year. A lot of cancer patients um, are diagnosed with low levels of vitamin D. So to prevent cancer, we want to make sure vitamin D levels are you've got a friend and we love that um, are good. And but taking a multivitamin, we want to get most of it from our food, but there are times and places for the vitamins. Yeah.
Got it. So let's go back. You were talking the story about nightshade veggies and tomatoes, and one question that we had was, that the person's confused because when the doctor suggests a Mediterranean diet, tomatoes are part of that. Does it not include nightshade vegetables, or are we doing it wrong?
You know what, Erin? They're super healthy for us. I love this gentleman. He needs to join our conversation. Um, it's it's if we find that we have a sensitivity, if we find that all of a sudden we have a health issue like psoriasis, if we find that there is a health concern, now we have to dig deeper into the weeds. And for some of us, we have to get rid of nightshade vegetables. For some of us, we just need to eat more vegetables. So it's not that anything's bad, but sometimes as we age or we have a health issue or we have cancer, we'll develop a sensitivity, and now we need to stay away from those healthy foods for a while till our digestive tract gets back in order.
Great. How about, all of these additives? You talked about the water additive. I want to focus on water. So talking about reverse osmosis water, was that what I wrote it
Yes.
down? I'm trying to see where my note was. Can you explain what that means? And then I have questions about additives into water.
Yes. So we kind of know that our food supply is not as healthy as it was maybe 100 years ago, maybe 50 years ago. And so our soil is compromised and we're not getting enough nutrients from our foods. We also know about the water supply has a lot of different chemicals and additives like chlorine and fluoride and all of these things that are concerning. So reverse osmosis takes absolutely all of the chemicals, all the compounds out of the water. And so but by eating a healthy whole foods diet, now you're adding back the minerals. So you can do a mineral infused water, you can do reverse osmosis, but we want to drink clean sources of water. The reason Dr. Hyman talked about maybe some added drops, electrolytes, is because maybe at a cellular level we're not hydrated. So for some people that might make sense. It's, for example, when I go to Colorado, I can't drink enough water because it's a desert, right? And so when you're adding electrolytes to the water, now we're absorbing more of that fluid and we're not as hydrated. So water, because 80% of our body and our mind is made up of water, we need to drink a lot of good quality water.
And is adding like a pinch of salt to your water good, or there's what, like Liquid IV and those types of brands? Is that all, not the salt piece, but like the Liquid IVs out there of the world? Is that all like marketing of like, oh, drink this and you'll be healthy?
You know what, Erin? I would love that to be a conversation maybe for the future because it gets a little detailed and everyone has a different health concern. So I don't want to make a recommendation, but what we do know for sure is we want to drink plenty of water until the point that when we're urinating at the end of the day, it's not colorful and there's not a smell to it. We really just feel like, okay, I feel better. Actually, many of us feel hungry when we're actually dehydrated. So we just need water. Many of us are tired because we're dehydrated. So we'll just, if we could, talk about how important maybe hydration is, and if you want to add some electrolytes to it, but maybe can dig a little deeper next time.
Sounds good. I like that you're already thinking ahead. We appreciate that. We've just got a couple more questions. So let's talk about the stress portion of inflammation. And many of our families, whether they are going through chemo and going through pancreatic cancer right now, or the caretakers and the stress of being a caretaker, how that's chronic, that's ongoing, that's not something that we can control. So what can we do to kind of combat that type of chronic stress that would help with the inflammation piece?
Well, I know, Erin, at your organization and my organization, we're both really, our hearts go out to all these survivors. Our hearts go out to all these caregivers. They're doing everything they can, and life is very difficult. And stress does cause inflammation. So, trying to follow a stress-free life is near impossible, especially when you're really helping somebody go through a cancer experience. But there are things we can do. Again, another wonderful topic in the future, but if you can just do deep breathing. I mean, you could be at the doctor's office, you could be driving, you could be making a pot of coffee for yourself. Just the deep breathing each day, maybe just stretching. Just doing some gentle stretching can make all of the difference in the world. Maybe getting outside in nature. Maybe working with our hands. A lot of times when we work with our hands, so we do adult coloring or we do something, it helps relieve the anxiety. Prayer, meditation, guided imagery. So there are so much we can do that only take 5-10 minutes, but we have to make them a practice each day, right? Part of our practice.
For sure. And I think it's like the healthy food mindset of getting into that mindset of,
Yes,
yes, I do have this 5 minutes to be able to do this, because if I don't, things won't go my way.
that's right.
Yeah. I want to be mindful of time. Let's wrap things up by, are there three key takeaways that you want our community to walk away with today? I'm going to point out one that I'm going to stick with to my best of my abilities. Don't do it all at once.
Yes.
Like, I'm an all at once person. I want to take all of this and just make the change. So my biggest takeaway is, start small and then go up. What else would you recommend for folks?
Yes, absolutely. And I think just being gentle with yourself, being mindful of what your good practices are. Remember, it's not about what you're not eating, it's about what you are eating and making sure that we're eating those good quality foods. And I love the 80-20 principle. I think it's a celebration every day. Every day we get a treat. So it's not about thinking about this is a diet, this is a lifestyle. And that every day be gentle with yourself. And even if 80% of the foods that you eat today are processed and the whole thing is reversed, right? You're only eating 20% of healing foods. Maybe tomorrow will be 60-40, and maybe it'll be 50-50. And then maybe you'll eventually get to the point where it's 80-20 and you look down and you realize, wow, I ate a lot of healing foods today. So be gentle with yourself, be mindful, and just take it day by day.
I love that. I love that, and love having you, love talking with you. I could sit and be with you for hours on this. So we'll figure out what our next topic will be to bring you back. But in the meantime, thank you so much for joining us today, for continuing this important conversation, for giving us these tips and reminders, and helping our community in such profound ways. We will put a link to Cancer Support Center and again, how to get back in touch with you if our folks have additional questions. But thank you for everything that you're doing day in and day out.
Yeah. Thank you, Erin. And thanks for what your organization does for so many. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. And thank you everybody else for joining us today. If you're catching this on the replay, go ahead and write replay in the comments when you put your questions. That way we'll be able to make sure that we get those to Chris and get answered, and be able to share more insights and information with the community. We'll announce details for our next Wellness Wednesday coming up soon, but always, 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 we appreciate your suggestions. We want to know what you want to know. If you have ideas on speakers, topics, all of that, go ahead and email us at info@rolffoundation.org, or you can put some examples in the chat right now. On behalf of everyone at Rolf Pancreatic Cancer Foundation, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We're really looking forward to celebrating with you throughout this exciting year. Until next time, stay healthy and take good care. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.